We want to run through 5 Southern villains, Landis, in a similar way. Probably actually hold off on the Big Ten tiebreaker talk. We know they did it. I don't think there's any surprises in there, but we need to work through exactly. It's one of those things. You do the tiebreakers. It's like, all right, well, if they're tied, they're also probably tied at number 1 in the first tie. They're probably tied the second tiebreaker. They're probably tied the third tiebreaker. So it's the fourth tiebreaker that always matters. We'll digest that a little bit more for tomorrow. We'll also tell you that tomorrow, Dan Wetzel from the College Football Enquirer will join us. I think we're going to reveal our preseason All-North team, Bill. Is that correct? And that is built by you, and then I'll criticize your list.
It is built by me. It is done. I have to double check maybe 1 or 2 things, but I think we're ready to roll with it. Yeah.
And then I will have my overrated Southern team of the week, which will be a regular Tuesday hit for us, where we kind of remind everybody that the South often isn't quite as good. The point is not that the South is not good at football. The point is the South often isn't as good as the perception of it is. So we'll have the overrated Southern team of the week. And then we'll have 3 guests. A North Dakota State person talking about North Dakota State versus Colorado on Thursday. We'll have a Minnesota person talking about Minnesota, North Carolina on Thursday. And we'll have a West Virginia person talking about our biggest Northern game of the week, which is West Virginia, Penn State on Saturday. But let's run through our 5 Southern villains. I thought of this in a similar way to the 20 most important people in the North, but it's who in the South can stop the North. Who in the South should Northern people be aware of because it might be a problem. Do you understand what I'm saying here, Bill?
Yeah.
All right. Number 5 on this list is Mike Gundy, the Oklahoma State head coach. Number 4 is the Grove Collective, which is the NIL army at Ole Miss. And they got a lot done this offseason. Number 3 is another combo. It's Blake Baker, the new LSU defensive coordinator, and Colin Klein, the new Texas A&M offensive coordinator. Both those programs looked at least a little bit north. Blake Baker is from Missouri. Colin Klein is from Kansas State, which, again, is nothing new. When the South gets in trouble, they look up. They don't look sideways, and they don't look down. They look up, right? They look up and say, please help us. But they're not looking to the heavens. They're looking to the north because that's where they go find football acumen. Number 2, obvious, Quinn Ewers, the quarterback at Texas. And number 1, even more obvious, Kirby Smart, the head coach at Georgia. Gundy, the Grove Collective, Baker and Klein, Ewers, and Smart. What do you think of my 5 Southern villains? Sports villains, football villains, not bad people, but people who might be so good at their job, they can negatively impact Northern teams.
I like the list. I am surprised that Kalen DeBoer is not on here. And I think I might actually have Kalen DeBoer number 1.
Number 1, because he is of the North in every single way possible. Son of the Dakotas.
Yeah.
Head coach at Washington and bailed.
Yeah. And I think Alabama's going to be good. I think Alabama might end up being the most threatening SEC team when we're talking about teams for national championships. He left Washington in a really tough spot. He took a bunch of good Northern players with him. Parker Brailsford, Jeremy Bernard from Washington.
Oh, I'm mad. Now you're getting me mad. Why did I have him on the list? I'm so mad at him now. You're right.
Caden Proctor is supposed to be at Iowa. Now he's back at Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. Keon Sabb, who was going to start at Michigan, left Michigan to go to Alabama. They also play Wisconsin this year. Kalen DeBoer is checking a lot of boxes, man. I think he should have been on this list.
The Grove Collective, Ole Miss got 18 transfers in the offseason, including Walter Nolan, a defensive tackle who was the number 1 recruit in the country. And the thing that Nick Saban and everybody has said about Ole Miss is now up front, they look like a team that can compete at the top of the SEC. That really matters. The reason I have Mike Gundy on here is because when you look at the top 7 teams in the predicted Big 12 standings, 5 of them of the 7 are our Northern team. Oklahoma State is the highest rated South team in the Big 12. I think if a Northern team doesn't win the Big 12, I think it'll be Oklahoma State. So that's why he's on this list for me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I would maybe throw UCF in there too, or if you want to do Mike Gundy and Gus Malzahn. UCF does not play either Kansas school. It does not play Oklahoma State. It does play 3 of the 4 worst teams in the conference in BYU, Arizona State, and Cincinnati. And it plays Arizona, West Virginia, and Utah all at home. And they have similar odds to Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. I find UCF potentially sort of equally as dangerous maybe as Oklahoma State. So I'm fine with Oklahoma State being there. I might have just combined them with UCF.
Blake Baker, like Brian Kelly, basically got rid of everybody who coached defense at LSU last year and said, we need to get better at this. It's when you have a lopsided program, it's not dissimilar to Penn State or Iowa, which it was just lopsided the other way. You try to fix things. Colin Klein is like a Kansas State guy through and through, quarterback at Kansas State, had coached, I think, for 9 years at Kansas State and just got stolen by Texas A&M, which also stole the Nebraska AD who had played at Nebraska. So sometimes like you're of the North until the South cash comes through, right? Like that is, we are aware of that reality in every way that it applies.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I like both those picks. Actually, Blake Baker to me feels like if we look up at the end of the college football season and ask who was the most impactful coordinator hire, I think there's a solid chance it's Blake Baker. That was a really good hire. I'm a little mad LSU got him.
I thought LSU was sort of overrated last year because they were like a big stat offense that like didn't really do anything that mattered. And then I had my fantasy football draft on Sunday night, and I wound up with Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr. And I reunited the entire LSU offense on my fantasy football team. And I was like, why? Why did I do this? Have I I'm just like Colin Klein and Trev Alberts. I betrayed the North in the pursuit of money. I was like, I just want to win my fantasy football league. Let me take all these Tigers. I'm a terrible person. All right. That's it for our first live show on Kings of the North. We will do this every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, Saturday nights at 11 p.m.